Hello, everyone. So, as our actually topic was presented, we'll try today to show you the bridge between design, business strategy, and development through service blueprint operations. And I would start with some little introductions, actually, a couple of them. At first, if you think about Equinix, if you know Equinix, Equinix is the world digital infrastructure company that we are with Jung work in, and you can imagine maybe you have seen even one of 260 data centers that we are building, located in over 70 metros around the world. So we're actually creating these interconnections. And what is really important, we have over 13,000 of employees globally, and I emphasize employees because for us, a really important thing is the second introduction about our team, EXD team, which is employee experience design. And this is what we with Jung are doing with part of our team here on the photo. I make greetings for them. And our purpose, as we stated with our leader, it's that we are a multidisciplinary designers who are stewards of the employee experience. So actually, of course, we are working on different data. We are working for customers, but at first, what is our really important mission is if we will take care of the employees, they will take care of the customers. So that's why we are trying to develop our mission with the employee experience emphasis. And what is really important, we are working in pairs, trying to build this culture of pairs. So, I mean, pair is a service designer and UX designer. And today we are here with Jung as service designers that will be sharing with you some lessons learned from creating service blueprint operations. And myself, I'm Kate. I'm based in Poland, working with our EXD team, building a service design team with some experience in service design so far, trainings and facilitation. And there's Jung here. Jung, your turn to make a hello for everyone.
Hi, my name is Jung Choi. I'm a senior service designer with the EXD team as well in Equinix. I have a previous experience in innovation-focused experience design at different companies. Nice to meet you all.
Yeah, so we will come back to Jung, of course. But at first, I want to start with a date. And this date is actually a birth date. So definitely, maybe for some of you, but definitely is a birth date of Service Blueprint. Service Blueprint is now having this year, actually, the anniversary, 40 years of the very first Service Blueprint, which was actually created by the Lynn Shostak 40 years ago and was published in Harvard Business Review. I digged into the story of Google data, and you can find the article also in our materials, designing services that deliver. And some of the structure of the blueprint is it's still valid. But let's us think about some changes for the operations that happened. So one thing changed from the structure of the blueprint, and definitely is a number of accessible data that we as UX and service designers are working on. So think about dozens of interviews, hundreds of data, and many iterations with the persona cards, and all it's coming to the final thing, which is a service blueprint that we all are looking for. But sometimes it's like many months of doing the work, pairing with the UX designer, doing a research, and finally having something which we need to share out somehow. But it's not so easy and it's challenging. And why we are talking about service blueprint, apart from the anniversary fact, from UX designers' perspective, that we are like constantly working and talking with, is service blueprint. It's something that can be a really good context for sprint discussions, some decisions with product owners, business owners, because sometimes you really need some proof, some evidence to show. And also based on the evidences that are needed for the business teams and analytic team, most often, a service blueprint can show, and actually this is one of the goals, to show the inefficiencies within the processes, the gaps, and approves along the journey. And the last thing is this is the quote, the sentence: just before we will sketch anything, we'll like mock up anything, just let's first understand and validate the context and have something to refer for. So this is one of the most important things for the service blueprint. We won't be, from the UX perspective, we won't be going through the whole structure of the service blueprint in this specific presentation for you. But of course, we will be referring how we have done the current version that we are working on. But coming back to the past for a little, from this 1984 structure, something needed to be, I would say, aligned or adjust for what we have now in the era of the lot of data and products and processes. And it's about not having a service blueprint only for services, but also for the processes, product experience along the given personal journey and all of the stakeholder ecosystem. And to that matter, service blueprint components or layers, all of the elements somehow needed to be changed. And now, to make it more concrete, in the chapter second of today's presentation, I will turn in for Jung, and he will tell you more about service blueprint operations, our team iterative process, and also the last but not least, some timeline framework that we want to offer to you. So Jung, is your stage now for the chapter second.
All right. I hope you guys can all hear me. I'm having some video issues. I think I'm frozen on the screen. Kate, you can't see me because you're sharing, but right now I'm frozen. But yeah, so there are three major challenges to service blueprint operations. First one is having the right level of detail, showing only what is really important for the viewer, the right audience. Second is the operations versus the communications. When you're in the internal team, a lot of things you could utilize to work collaboratively, but what do you actually communicate outside of the team? I think that is really important, but there's one of the biggest challenge. And last but not least, we have current versus future. There's always question about what do we show? Are we showing the current state or the future state? But I think it is important to show both. You want to show the difference that you're making from the current state to the future to show the improvements and metrics. So this is one of our capture from one of our workshops. So you could see that there's a lot of stickies, a lot of data, a lot of input that we're gathering from the collaborative cross-functional team. And what you typically have in the internal operations are these walls. You have war rooms with a lot of data, a lot of stickies, a lot of information. This is one of the images I actually got from the internet. This is from Emerge. So this is not our image, but this is typically how the service blueprint operations will start. And thanks to digital tools like Mural, it's a really great collaborative tool where you could synthesize and digitize a lot of the content. So all the stickies that you've seen in the walls will be synthesized or digitized in this matter. And this is really great for teams working remotely, but still in this format in Mural, this is no way shareable to any stakeholders or outside parties. So what we have done is we created a shareable content. So when we have a service blueprint, we convert it with Figma to create a prototype, which could be shared easily to different stakeholders. But you can see that we have different components already built, a design system, so that this is easily manipulable or like easily editable by different parties. But we noticed that even that level was too granular, too detailed. So what we have created now, this is like the latest version of our service blueprint. But this version is showing just the high levels. And we're focusing on the moments. Because typically in service blueprint, you have all the actions and steps captured and the front stage and backstage of what's happening in the organization. But here we're focusing only on the critical moments. And this blueprint is actually step towards development. So when you have this blueprint, focusing on the moments, you have the key interview artifacts, you have sitemaps, you have vision and moments captured. And this actually shows some sort of a roadmap to prioritization. And I think this really is critical how we partner with UX and service design. You can see that the first diamond here is much on the service designers, where we're tasked with doing the discovery, focusing, honing on the vision. But the second part with the product design is, this is how you work partners with the service blueprint. But service blueprint eventually will be a single source of truth where you have this roadmap captured and important moments. So, how might we overcome these challenges? I think having the right tools and showing the right level of detail to the respective party or whoever's watching, the right audience, but also capturing the right moment and having some sort of format for validation.
Okay, so I will take it from here. And I will talk with you about something which is also the lesson from our side, which we name the blueprint coming outs. So the coming out here for the blueprint is something that we are all wishing for. From actually, we are maybe not as a UX and service designer wishing for this coming out, so sharing it, but others are wishing us for do it, like from the very beginning. So the lessons from our different engagements, and recently, like last month, we can say that there were three major processes for the service blueprint that we have made within our team, and all of them were somehow different, of course, from the perspective of the structure or the goal, or then the design that happened after. But there were something that was common, and it was about challenges within the shareouts for the blueprint. When exactly to share it out, who to share it out, and how to approach that. So you can think about three scenarios and like one final share out. So working only internally many months, sometimes weeks, sometimes months for one blueprint artifact, and then sharing it out at the final. Good, but you can answer yourself. Actually, from our perspective, it could be like not having a space for the validation during the whole journey of creation of the blueprint, which is not a good thing, because then you have only like 50% chances or even less that the leadership or executives will be really happy with the service blueprint. Big broad share outs. So in this case, also the scenario is actually many cases to mostly to impress or show the final artifact. But this third scenario could be something, and this is something that we are wishing for and working on in our team, regular design program updates. So creating this kind of a culture of validation, something like a council for the service blueprint, which are teams, the other teams involved in the process during the workshops, during the research, during actually understanding the most important major changes within the blueprint. So these coming outs are really important from the perspective of if this service blueprint will be a use or if it will end up in shelf. And another lesson is something that Jung already mentioned, and it's about this current state versus future state. This is something that we also have a lot of challenges, because we can imagine this story and we hear it. I have been listening to it like many years. Just skip this current state. We already have the documentation. We already have many actually documentation and data inside. We know how the current state is working. So let's just focus and draft for the future, which means that we are possibly, most possibly, just missing the pain points, missing the inefficiencies, missing the processes and waste cycles inside by thinking only about something that is a solution based, so solution area. So how might we show the future design based on the current state? We can tell you that maybe one of the possible ideas for that is thinking, and this is the idea of our team, recently thinking about, of course, mapping the current state, but then having a tomorrow vision, which is next quarter, maybe next month, maybe, and then also having the North Star, which is the future, But future is based on pain points. Future is based on the data and all of the things that we compared to the current and tomorrow vision. And this is a potential opportunity to really like maybe answering this question about like skipping the current state. And for the chapter third, which is the last chapter, a truth about the service blueprint. So Jung, I'm putting it for you for the
Yeah.
last minute.
Thanks, Kate. So last part, I think we want to talk about the difference between the waterfall and agile environment. I know a lot of companies tout that they're working in agile, but a lot of times this is what it looks like. You're going from idea to business case, roadmap, and at some point you have design, and your design is through the development, which is build, test, and deploy. And what happens is with service design and service blueprint, it becomes an artifact. Becomes an artifact that's very static and kind of stays as a document of record, but it doesn't really get used. What you want in this agile environment is having a service blueprint that's as a living document. There should be a continuous circular feedback, and the service blueprint as well, it should evolve as the project and the data that you're gathering as it evolves. So it should be continuously moving and should be as a living document.
And for that matter, if you would like to connect with us on the more details, you can start with this process that it's based on our experiences. And it's actually also involving not only a process checklist, which is taking the main team, not only service designers and UX designers, but also the supporters and the collaboration with other like teams from the organization, which is really critical for the process. Making a data inventory, making sure that you have all of the current data and you know this current data. In a big organizations, it's really a big challenge to get to know all of the sources, but also make sure that you create the inventory along the way of creating the service blueprint. Of course, communication plan with the coming outs and goal and the use of this blueprint to make it eventually service blueprint value in use. And the last thing about that is this updates and readouts, they are turning us back for the loop that the work on the service blueprint operations is something that cannot stop as the design process in many cases. So for the ending, we have some key takeaways from the perspective of arguments for UX being involved in service blueprint operations. And I will maybe go through all of them eventually. So the inefficiencies shown up on the map, this is something that you can really use using the service blueprint. So as the opportunities that you can find out if the service blueprint is really well created. Another thing is it can make you proofs and evidences and arguments for product business and IT owners. So in our case, for example, life cycle times, waste cycle times, make us and UX equipped with some artifact which supports the decisions, that support the recommendations. Sometimes we really need it apart from only the design. And another thing is like effective way to build an alignment for the experience. So yes, the blueprint shrouds, but also working on the blueprint during, for example, workshops. This is a way to align everybody on really the important things which are shown in a scale and in some one source. And the last but not least, it's that the service blueprint operation approach is like, this is not an artifact, as Jung mentioned. So we cannot work only in one of the phases of the design process on a service blueprint and then just go further. This is something that is not a one-stop discovery artifact, but it's kind of an approach to work on services, processes, and product development. And that's all for today. Thank you for hearing us and open to questions or here or somewhere else on LinkedIn and other channels.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. So we have a few questions that have come in. Lots of different types of questions, and it's clear that it caused a lot of pain for a lot of people with regards to project planning and that. The first one I'd like to break down is, how frequently should you update your blueprint? Because I guess that's coming from you. You did a few updates. What did that look like for you, or how much is too much?
I think as frequently as new information, new data is gathered, business is always changing. There's goals that's always shifting. There's transformation. So yeah, it should be, again, if it's a true living document, it should be updated frequently. As if you have a new interview, if you have new data sources, it should be updated.
I love that. It's living document kind of answers the question on that.
Yeah, I can build on additional sentence to this, that it is really, it depends on the data, as Jung also mentioned, but it will be nice to have a standard, for example, to make it like once in 2 or 3 months, but having a coordinator of the service blueprint, for example, service designer or UX designer inside the company, and having this kind of a regularity and frequency, which is a standard. Of course, if the product or the software or the process is a living process, but normally it is in nowadays world.
Yeah, fantastic. And how do you get all stakeholders involved? So you talked about the main team. How much is too much? How many is too many people?
Well, I mean, typically we start off with having an alignment workshop. So in a typical workshop, you want to have all cross-functional stakeholders, but you don't want to have everybody in the room, right? So I think dozen or less. So we typically have a workshop with about 9 or so individuals, maybe 12, but representing desirability, viability, and feasibility. If you have all those represented, that's a perfect team to start.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And how much can Miro or Mural, whichever people might use, link with other, like you've talked about making it a living document. So how have either you or how would you suggest to people to make it that living document, that updates are almost automated, that it doesn't become too intensive manually to update? Do you use anything, examples here, Airtable, Asana, Teams?
Yeah, so one of the examples that we shared, we actually converted all the content that we had on Miro into Figma. So we built a Figma, and then there was a design system and components so that it could be updated, just copying and pasting into a FigJam. And then that in turn will kind of update, show up in the Figma prototype.
Yeah. Okay, great. No, fantastic. That is all of the questions. Shri has said hi to you, Kate, and good to see you, I see. Thank you so much, both. That was really, really great. And your presentation will be live next week for everybody. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you for having us.